Hi everyone, Pam here from Pam's Crafty Corner. Welcome back to my channel for another episode of Coffee, Crime, and Crafts. These are bi-weekly episodes that I'm doing where I discuss the details of a specific crime while working on a weekly craft project. This week, I've been making steady progress on what I've been calling my Jessica Fletcher sweater. I finished the first sleeve and I cast on the second sleeve, which I am almost finished. I've already done the fish, which goes in the middle of the upper arm. So I just need to do the decreases now for just show you there, top part of the sleeve. And I'm going to work on that today because I think I can actually get this sweater finished by the end of the weekend. All the knitting part done anyway. So while working on this piece, we're going to discuss the events of a decades-old cold case that occurred here in Newfoundland. Yes, it's another one from Newfoundland, but don't worry, I do have other cases from outside this province to discuss as well in some upcoming episodes. But with my work schedule being as different as it is at the moment, I'm using some information and story ideas that I had already previously pulled together. So today's case is going to be the case of the missing O'Brien boys, Adam, Trevor, and Mitchell O'Brien, who, along with their father, Gary O'Brien, disappeared in November of 1996, 24 years ago. So grab your drink or your snack of choice, get your crafting project, and settle in. So I'm just doing straight knitting now. I'm purling on one side and knitting on the other, and I'm just going to be doing a decrease at the beginning of every round until I get to the top of the sleeve, and then I'll cast off. So like I said, hopefully I'll get this done today, and then all I have left to do is to knit the collar, and that shouldn't take me very long. And then all the knitting will be done. I just need to sew it together and find a zipper the right length to sew in. So here we go. Diana Boland and Gary O'Brien were married and had 3 children together, Adam, Trevor, and Mitchell. By November of 1996, Diana and Gary had divorced, and Diana was living in Mount Pearl with the 3 boys, while Gary was living in Torbay, which is approximately 22 kilometers apart. I looked it up on Google Maps there. Mount Pearl is a small city that's located just outside of the city of St. John's. And Torbay is a small town, and it's also located just outside the city of St. John's, on the outskirts of the city. Diana had primary custodial custody of the boys, so they lived full-time with her, but Gary maintained regular contact and had fairly regular visitation with them. He would typically pick the boys up from Diana, taking them for the day, and then return them by early evening. November the 9th of 1996 started out pretty much like any other regular Saturday for them, except the youngest child, Mitchell, was not feeling well. Adam was the oldest. He was 14 years old. Trevor was the middle child. He was 11. And Mitchell was just 4 years old. He actually would have been turning 5 at the end of that month. So he was just a couple weeks shy of his 5th birthday. So anyway, Gary was scheduled to pick the kids up that Saturday and have them for his regular visitation day. He called Diana to let her know that he was running late. At that point, she told him about Mitchell being ill and not feeling well, and suggested that he not pick the boys up that day as scheduled so they could stay home instead. Gary, however, became agitated on the phone and was insistent that he was picking the children up as scheduled, and he told Diana to make sure they were ready to go when he arrived. As you can see, I'm not a very fast knitter. Diana reluctantly, there we go. Diana reluctantly packed up the boys and allowed Gary to take them when he got there. She knew he had a history of mental health concerns and violence, but she never thought that he would harm their children. And I believe part of the reason that she just let them go with him that day, even though Mitchell was ill, it was more about just keeping the peace. She didn't want to cause him to become more angry or more agitated when he showed up to pick the boys up, as he had already gotten agitated with her on the phone. So he arrived and picked them up, and the boys left with their father. But later that evening, they didn't return at their usual time. Diana started to get worried. And around 8:30 in the evening, Gary phoned Diana and stated that he was not going to return the boys to her. He then proceeded to tell her that she was never going to see them again. And he said not to come looking for them, and told her that he had rigged their family home in Torbay to explode if anyone entered the property. Diana asked to speak to the boys, but all Gary said was later, and then he disconnected the call. So when you think about when this occurred, it was 24 years ago. And Diana couldn't say where Gary was at the time he called. She didn't know if he was at home or if he was calling from somewhere else. He had made threats in the past to take the children from her, but she never thought it would actually come to this. Especially with her having the custodial being the custodial parent. So Diana's sister was actually present at Diana's home in Mount Pearl with her when she received that call from Gary. And when she broke down after Gary had hung up on her without letting her speak to the boys, Diana's sister immediately, I guess, figured that something was wrong. Gary had gone too far this time, and she contacted the local police, which for that area is the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. They informed the investigating officer that Gary did have a violent history and had told him about his threats of having rigged the house in Torbay. Diana thought it could be possible that Gary had actually done that, as he was very resourceful And I believe he was an electrician, or he had some training as an electrician. So Diana did feel, though, that even though he had made threats, again, he absolutely wouldn't hurt their children in any way. But maybe he had rigged the house as a way to hurt others if they showed up there looking for them. The Royal Newfoundland Constabulary decided to attend the residence in Torbay, and upon arrival, they did indeed confirm that the house was rigged to explode. Gary had wired 2 400-pound propane tanks to the doorbell of the residence. That's another row done. I just marked off my chart there so I can keep track of how many rows I'm doing. So yeah, he had actually gone ahead and wired that house with propane tanks. They were hooked up to the doorbell, so if anyone came and rang the door, it would have actually exploded, and it would have taken out, I guess a large area of space with the amount of propane tanks that he had there. So once the home was secured, the police then did a thorough search of the residence. I just dropped a stitch as I was trying to bind that one off. Let's try that again. There we go. So they searched the home, but they found no sign of the boys or of Gary. A citywide search was initiated. Gary had been driving his gray 1989 Ford Tempo when he picked the boys up on that Saturday morning. So police across the province were advised to be on the lookout for that vehicle, and they were provided with descriptions of Gary and the boys. Because Newfoundland is an island, Gary would have had to take the ferry or make travel plans for plane tickets in order to leave the in order to leave the province. The problem with that was they didn't know how much of a head start Gary had, nor did they know how long he had been planning this. It didn't seem to the authorities that this had been a spur-of-the-moment decision, because rigging the house the way he did would have taken thought and time and preparation. And also, they had no idea where Gary had taken the boys when he picked them up in Mount Pearl that day. It seems kind of unlikely that he would have taken them back to the house in Torbay, because the house had probably already been rigged prior to picking the boys up, so it would have been unsafe to take them back there. And it also seemed pretty improbable that he would have returned to the house and then rigged the tanks and the wiring with the children present there in the house during the day. So Diana had no way of knowing where Gary had been when he called her at 8:30 that Saturday evening. He could have called her from anywhere in the province, really. Technology has come a long way in 24 years. And in 1996, he didn't have a cell phone that they could trace. At least I couldn't find any mention of any cell phone or any call tracing that had been done in any sort of the account, in any of the accounts that I had gone through. If he did indeed plan to abduct their children and flee the province, he could have called her from any phone. The O'Brien boys' abduction made national as well as international news. Flyers with the boys' photos, detailed descriptions of them, and the car, as well as information on Gary, was broadcast to many media outlets nationally, as well as to police agencies right across the country. Unfortunately, Gary and the boys have never been located, nor has Diana ever heard from either of them. With Adam being 14 years old at the time of the abduction, many people think that if the children were still alive, Diana would have received news from one of them by now. With Adam being 14, he would have probably been old enough to realize what was going on, and certainly by now, I mean, he would be 38 years old now. So they would have contacted her themselves by now, or someone would have come forward with information at this point. So anyway, despite Gary's mental health concerns and his history, Diana is still adamant, even to this day, that he would have not killed himself and the boys. She believes that the rigging of that bomb at the house was a tactic to stall police and provide him with extra time that he needed to try and get out of the province undetected. In October of 1997, almost 1 year after their disappearance, an engine from a Ford Tempo was found in the ocean during a search over a cliff in Flat Rock, which is located about 10 kilometers away from Torbay. There were reports that the serial number on the recovered engine matched the serial number of the engine for Gary's car. Many people don't actually realize this, but in addition to all vehicles having a VIN number, which is the vehicle identification number, that's specific to just that vehicle, additional parts used to build that vehicle, like the engines, the bumper, like larger parts, door panels, those sorts of things, they all have serial numbers as well that are specific to that part. And those serial numbers are recorded with the associated VIN number. So the manufacturer knows which parts belong to which car specifically. So I think that's how they determined, or how come it's believed that, yes, that engine actually matched Gary's car. Based on the registration of his car, they would have had the VIN number, and they could have then backtracked serial numbers to the parts. So even though the engine was found in the ocean there was no other evidence to suggest that Gary and the boys had actually gone over the cliff with the vehicle. There were no other car parts or additional debris from a wreckage found in the area. It was just the engine, and no bodies were ever recovered. Some people believe that this is simply due to the extremely turbulent nature of the current of the Atlantic Ocean in that area. It's possible that had a car gone over that cliff, it would have broken up and the engine would have torn away from the vehicle and then been lying by itself. Diana, though, she believes that the car was actually dumped there by Gary as another tactic to fool police into thinking he had killed himself and the boys. In 1998, an anonymous female contacted the police with a tip. This female said that she thought she recognized the boys as children she had babysat briefly in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So again, this tip came in 1998, so this was 2 years now after they had been missing. So police made several attempts, as well as public appeals, to try and find the woman that had provided that tip, but they never have been able to locate her. She hasn't come forward again, and no one's come forward saying that they know who she is. They do, however, think that it is possible that her tip is credible, because the woman that called in the tip saying that she said the boys looked like kids she had babysat briefly, she also provided intimate information about the family, including nicknames for some of the boys, and that had not been previously released to the public. However, all efforts to make contact with this woman, again, they were completely exhausted, and that lead didn't bring about anything new, other than the possibility that maybe they did actually make it out of Newfoundland. To date, the boys and Gary have never been found. Diana Saunders, as she's now known, she continues to search for her children. There's actually a $50,000 reward available for any new information that leads to locating them. Today, Adam would be 38 years old. Trevor would be 35. And Mitchell would be turning 28 at the end of this month. So I'm going to include, of course, some age-progressed photos of the boys with their vital statistics that we know from the time they disappeared. The age-progressed photos that I found online, they were done, I believe, about 10 years ago. So they would have been based on the boys being a little bit younger than they are now, but irregardless of that. So the first one is Adam Matthew O'Brien. So he was born on October 28th, 1982. He was 14 at the time of disappearance. He's the oldest O'Brien brother. He was last seen wearing black and white Adidas pants with stripes, a black and white Adidas runners, and a black and white Adidas jacket with stripes and a green shirt. At the time, he did have clear braces on his teeth at the time he disappeared. He has brown hair, blue eyes, and was last known to be about 5'3" and 100 pounds at the age of 14. And this age-progressed photo that they have shows what he might have looked like at 7. The second boy, Trevor Anthony Thomas O'Brien. Hang on, I just gotta fix this. He was born May the 8th of 1985. He was last seen wearing blue denim pants and a black and white Adidas runners. He has brown hair, blue eyes, and he was about 4'8" and 70 pounds when he was last seen at the age of 11. But of course, he would be 35 now. 35, 36. And finally, we've got Mitchell O'Brien. His date of birth was November the 29th of 1991. He was last seen wearing black and white sneakers, a blue denim, a blue turtleneck and blue denim pants. He has brown hair and brown eyes, and he would now be just turning 28 years old. I'm also including Gary's details. Gary O'Brien is actually considered a wanted person for the abduction of the children. Today, Gary would be 64 years old. Gary Joseph O'Brien. He is 5'10", approximately 132 pounds at the time of the abduction. He was last known to have gray hair, a mustache, and a false tooth. He was a smoker. He's described as being quiet, introverted, and resourceful. And he has a history of violence, some mental health concerns as well. So should you have any information on this case, please contact the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary at 729-8000 or contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS, which is 8477. Or you can also report a tip anonymously via Crime Stoppers online. And I'll put a link to their website down below. You know, it's certainly a sad story to have these 4 people missing and for that mom to not have any closure for the past 24 years. I hope that you found the episode enjoyable, even though it's such a horrible topic. But, you know, it's just my way of trying to get this information out there as well, so that people still are aware of it. So please give the episode a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. I upload these videos bi-weekly, and I also post update videos of my various crafts every couple of weeks. If you'd like to support my channel and the time it takes me to do the research and prepare for each of these episodes, feel free to check out the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below. A coffee, of course, is always appreciated. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy your crafting.